How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we have the 1 month review of the Nike Tiempo Legend 9 Elite. But before we get into that, make sure you guys go down, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and as always, huge shout out to Sogility for letting me train and film at their facility. Link to their Instagram is going to be down in the description. Like I've said before many times, I get so many touches here. Like, this place is amazing at training your technical skill, your touch, and literally anything soccer related. So go give them a follow. But with that being said, let's get into the video. Okay, so right off the bat, I want to talk the looks and colorway. I mean, just take a look at this neon green, yellow. Personally, I think this is one of the better colorways in the Nike Legend 9. I know there are some insane colorways out there, but these are somewhat difficult to get at a decent price. If I'm buying a boot, I want it to stand out and just look really clean. But don't get me wrong, can never go wrong with a blackout boot or a whiteout boot. But for me, colorway on these is actually really nice, and also they look relatively clean. That's because I actually took the time to clean these, unlike some other 1 month reviews that I've done. So these honestly look like I got them probably like 2 weeks ago. I've had them for way longer than that, and I've worn them for way longer than that. So if you want to keep your boots looking like this after like a month or a little bit longer of use, clean your boots like religiously. Because you can kind of tell right there on the heel area, you can see the dirt that I got from playing on an actual real grass pitch. But literally just take your time, clean your boots. The sole plate is a little bit dirty, but I mean, this was full of mud before. Now let's talk sole plate, stud pattern, stud shape, stud length. As always, I am mainly on an artificial pitch, especially during these months of the year where it's like literally -5, 11 degrees. It's way too cold. But these are FG boots, as you can see. I am gonna say, compared to the Legend 10s, these are a little bit more aggressive. That's just because the Legend 10 has some conical, like fully conical studs. These are kind of circular conical, but as you can see, it's got some of them have some ridges here at the bottom, and I mean, as they should for an FG boot. I'm just letting you know that on an artificial pitch, it is slightly aggressive, especially these back 4 studs. I mean, just look at those. Those do not scream out AG friendly. But as far as playing on them in AG, I didn't really have any like insane issues. I would say that these back 4 studs, I have felt some like definitely a lot more traction whenever I'm moving, passing, or just changing direction. And like I said, that's exactly what it's meant to do, because these are FG boots. So if you're playing on artificial grass, just be aware of that. The back 4 studs are very aggressive. This top half of the boot is also a little bit aggressive, but I would say it's more AG friendly than the bottom half. And as always, I'm always going to recommend to you to wear an AG boot if you're mainly on AG. But if you're a little bit stubborn like I am and like how FG boots look more than AG boots, these aren't the most aggressive boots on the market, so take that information as you please. But sole plate, pretty solid. As far as looks, I think it's pretty cool. Although this Tiempo at the bottom looks like they added a blur to it, so it looks kind of knockoffy. I'm not sure if that's just this specific boot, or all of them, but that's just me nitpicking, because responsiveness is very solid. I mean, look at that. Stud length, I mean, in FG boot, you're gonna get a decent size stud length. On an AG pitch, like I said, it does dig into the actual artificial grass, because artificial sole plates are a little bit shorter than FG. Now let's talk the full upper. You cannot go wrong with kangaroo leather. These are one of the most, if not the most comfortable boots that I've literally worn to date. I mean, just look at that. They've completely molded perfectly around my foot, and just the touch that I get on the ball with these feels so comfortable. But it does provide a sense of a padded touch whenever you're shooting or passing, or just even have the ball on your feet, as a leather boot should. But man, you just cannot go wrong with a kangaroo leather upper. This, I've had so much fun playing in these just because they feel so comfortable and it's just so seamless playing with them. Now, like I said in the first video, these grip elements that it has on the upper that have like a pad on them that kind of protrudes out, I think it's a really nice touch. It definitely provides more grip than whatever the Tiempo 10s have, like, because those grips on the Tiempo 10s are essentially these small dots as well, but they're just not as effective in my opinion. Like, you can hear the difference going from the smooth upper into the ridges. Take a listen. Smooth upper, ridges. So it's some grip, but not an insane amount of grip. Now, with that being said, I am gonna say that the Tiempo 10s have a better sense of to your foot lockdown feel than these do. And that's because these only have that sock-like mesh here in the actual sock area, and the Tiempo 10s kind of have it throughout here in the ankle area. And I think it doesn't necessarily provide more stability, but it provides like a placebo effect to where it's more to your foot, and yeah, just makes the boot feel closer to your foot. Now, going into the heel area, I didn't really have any issues with it. I didn't have any slippage. Lockdown is fairly decent. There isn't an insane amount of padding in there like some other boots have, so your foot doesn't really struggle sliding in. But then also, depending on the size of your heel is going to really depend if you're slipping or not. I feel like if you have a pretty thin heel area, you might have some slippage here, but Nike boots are pretty good about feeling tight. For me, I didn't experience that. What I did experience is here on the side, I would get pressure points on my ankle just because this area right here is kind of like pretty stiff compared to some other boots that I've tried. And whenever I would step, specifically with my left foot, because that's usually my planting foot when I go and shoot, whenever I would step sideways like that, this area right here would dig into my heel, and honestly, it was pretty uncomfortable. That really didn't go away with break-in time and everything. I feel like that's just the design of the boot, and it doesn't take away too much from it, but it definitely pinches on the side of my ankle, and it's not necessarily that comfortable. But honestly, I would say that's the only uncomfortable thing about this boot. It's just this part of the heel right here digs into my ankle whenever I plant too much diagonally, if that makes any sense. But upper overall, I'm not gonna lie, one of the best I've ever tried. And given I've mainly tried more modern recent boots, but I'm dabbling in whatever I can get my hands on, making my way back in the timeline, if that makes any sense. Now, last but definitely not least, durability. In the first initial testing video, I told you guys that I was a little bit worried of how these were going to hold up for the 1 month review because of the kangaroo leather upper, because in the Copa Pure 2 I experienced sole plate upper separation because that calf skin upper and me playing on AG, just the combination wasn't great. So I was worried that that same exact thing was going to happen with this because it's kangaroo leather. The material compared to a synthetic leather like the Legend 10s is just more, I would say, a higher chance of getting that sole plate separation, especially if you're playing on AG. So with that being said, did I experience any sole plate upper separation? Yes, I did. As you can see, it happened on the left boot, exactly like the Copa Pures, but it's this very tiny little bit right here that's separating. That is the only spot on the boot that it's actually separating like that. After a month of use, honestly, compared to the Copas, it's way better. But definitely if I would wear these for like 6 months, I feel like that would almost be all over the sole plate throughout the whole boot, or at least throughout the upper, that's the kangaroo leather upper. The heel area I don't think would have that issue just because you don't really get much movement back here as you do up here. But unfortunately there is some sole plate upper separation there. Nothing insane to be worried about. By no means is this affecting how the boot feels on my foot at the moment. It's just something that you can visually see, and it's kind of sad, I ain't gonna lie, because this is exactly what I was worried about. But at the same time, I kind of did this to myself because I play on AG with an FG boot. So be aware when you're wearing FG on an AG, your boot durability is going to be way less than what it is supposed to be with FG on FG. Now, with that being said, my final thoughts on the Tiempo Legend 9 Elite. Honestly, this is like one of my top favorite boots I've literally ever worn. I feel like I kind of say that every time, but no, legit. These are one of the most comfortable uppers that I've ever worn. Sole plate isn't insanely aggressive. It's pretty friendly besides these bottom 4 studs. And if this heel area just didn't pinch my ankles the way it does whenever I'm stepping to shoot, I think these would be like the best boots I've worn in a minute. And I would say these are way more comfortable than the Legend 10s. Don't get me wrong, the Legend 10s are still a pretty solid boot, but these are, in my opinion, way better than that. My rating is still gonna stay the same on these because I feel like I rated them pretty high on the first video. Although I have gained a better sense of appreciation with kangaroo leather that they no longer make anymore. So I don't know if I'm gonna be wearing these anymore if I'm not on an FG pitch, because I don't want the sole, I don't want this to separate anymore, because these are like a prized possession, you know what I mean? But let me know what you guys think down in the comments, Legend 9 or Legend 10. And also, if you've worn a Legend 9, what do you think of that kangaroo leather upper? Because I mean, it's like one of the most comfortable uppers I've ever had the pleasure to feel on my feet. With that being said, if you guys are liking the videos, make sure you go down, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.